Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Naperville Park District Board of Commissioners. Today is Thursday, November 11th, 2021. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, please.
President Todd,
Here.
Vice President Gibson. Here. Commissioner Ansier,
Here.
Commissioner Janner,
Here.
Commissioner McBroom,
Here.
Commissioner Ruffing,
Here.
Commissioner Thompson.
Here.
Okay, is there any matters from the public?
None.
Okay, so we have two presentations tonight. The first one's from the Western DuPage Special Rec Association, their annual visit. Who do we have?
Good evening. Very excited to be here tonight. As a Naperville resident, very proud to live in this community and just want to give you all kudos. My family with grown boys, we've enjoyed the amenities in Naperville over the years and seen the district grow. So really it's a testament to you all and your public service and the leadership. And I just wanted to say that. So thank you for that. Before I get into Western DuPage, at your places is our annual report. So if you want to look at that in more detail, learn a little bit more, if you have questions.
Whoops.
Do that already.
Uh-oh.
Learn a little bit more, you have any questions?
Don't worry about it. I can slide it for you.
Slide it.
Yeah.
That's for you to review. So with that said, we'll dive right in. A quick overview. This is our annual report, but I'm also treating this as a little bit of a meet and greet. You've probably seen Sandy Gerber up here for 10 years, and I'm the new face. How did I get here? I had 10 years in the private sector, media relations, publishing, some other positions. And 16 years ago, I found my way to local government at Schaumburg Park District. Kind of built my career progressively from there. The last 6.5 years, I was at Fox Valley Park District as your neighbor to the west. Collaborated a lot with Samira and was very happy to have her as an ear to bend from time to time, and really learned my way navigating the executive level of local government. That got me further interested, and I went back to school, got my master's in public administration, kind of furthered my knowledge base, and knew I wanted to lead an agency, and I had a really good mentor who encouraged me to do so. I also served on the Fox Valley Special Recreation Board, so I sort of had a window into that community, as well as I'm a parent of a 22-year-old with special needs. So SRAs have always been in my life, and we've received their services, and we've seen the life-changing impact that they can make. With all that said, when I saw WD become open, I kind of said, well, I've got some board experience, I've got local government experience, I've got a parent perspective. This is something that I would really be passionate about. Plus, part of the reason we even live in Naperville is to receive services from Western DuPage. Excellent reputation, top-notch organization. So I applied in February of 2021. There's a typo there. And going through the process, Ray was part of the board that brought me on, and I started there June 1st. So I'm just about 5.5 months into my tenure at Western DuPage. The numbers and the data that you see in the book here are really my predecessors. So I can't take any credit, but I really can't take any criticism yet at this point either. So that said, like I mentioned, we live in Naperville, 2 grown boys, my wife Mary Ann, and we really enjoy everything about this area and look forward to spending many more years here. So here is the Western DuPage report card from the last fiscal year, if you will. And when you talk about raw numbers, the big number on the left there in terms of total registrations, that was mostly through virtual programs because we were very limited through the year, which I'm sure you've heard at your agency. And then we have the in-person programs to the right. Still a very active year. The agency did an amazing job of fundraising and outreach, really still served our communities and found new ways to serve those individuals. One of the interesting things with virtual recreation, I've seen at my house as well, is, those individuals rely on that community so heavily when they're cut off from school and their friends. And we're not just talking about kids, we're talking about adults in their 40s and 50s. WD is really a home base for them. So to be able to bring programs online and in some ways increase access and reduce barriers, whether it's transportation or cost, was an amazing find for Western DuPage Special Rec. In terms of some things, some home base that I've established for our staff and what we want to do, we want to increase access, we want to increase awareness, and we want to always be looking at our activities. We all offer a lot of the same activities year after year, but are we trending? Are we offering things out there in the private market that people are finding as recreation, whether it's esports or cooking classes or whatever? Just always auditing our offerings as well as what we can do with access and awareness. Working with all our Park District partners here to make sure that we have a strong presence and that we're not a hidden secret. Those are some of my areas of focus. This is one participant story I'm not going to read in detail. Very similar, like I mentioned, to my son. She's enjoyed virtual yoga. She's enjoyed virtual Zumba, bingo, karaoke. Again, just many different ways that we can deliver a Western DuPage experience that's tailored to their needs through a screen, which isn't ideal, but that's what we had to work with. And we received amazing feedback from our parents and our families. So this will continue to be a part of our offering mix going forward. We don't want to emphasize it too much, but we've really seen it fill some gaps. And just the last slide here in terms of looking at raw numbers, where our registrations come from and where our inclusion requests come from. Naperville is the dark navy blue there. Obviously the biggest community that we serve, so you drive those numbers. When you look at the bar graph to the right and you see the numbers falling off, that's obviously due to the pandemic over the last year. What do we need to do to get back to normal or back to even looking to grow our programs? Well, right now we're dealing with staffing. We really need to bolster our part-time workforce in particular. They're really the boots on the ground for our programs. We need to continue looking at space. As you've all felt the pinch of space and everything's at a premium, we need to be more aggressive in terms of getting some dedicated space for our programs to return. And then we need to always be considering safety considerations with the elevated level of care, hand over hand, feeding tubes, wheelchair assistance. There's some protocols that apply to us that maybe your staff don't have to deal with. So those are the issues that we continue to look at, and I'm asking staff to be progressive and think creatively to solve them. And really, again, 5.5 months into the job, very much learning the ropes, but eager to serve this and the other 8 communities that Western DuPage serves. So with that said, I really thank you for your time and could take any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Dan.
Thanks.
I could just say one thing. Dan has done a phenomenal job stepping into Sandy's shoes. And going back to, and you're going to hear this in about 2 minutes from me, when we talk about the need for people. I also sit on the Little Friends board. And at our board meeting yesterday, Mike Briggs, our CEO, let us know we had 57 openings.
Wow.
Right now. That's 57 full-time, well, no, not all full-time, mostly full-time, but also a lot of part-time openings. So we continue to try to be creative, both the WD and certainly Little Friends and certainly here at the Park District. But unfortunately, and to Sue's point, I'm pointing at Sue. Sue put out an email today that she was driving down I-55 and I believe it was, who was that? Walmart. $1,000 bonus to come work. 1,000 to be a greeter. This is what we're up against. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you all for my time here at the Park District. I will help you at the door, but thank you.
Okay, our second presentation is the budget presentation.
Okay, so I'll, want me to lead off?
Yeah,
Start
you
off
can
here?
lead off and you guys are driving? Okay.
You guys are driving.
Yep.
So back in August, and let me preface this by saying, this is going to look a whole lot different to the veteran commissioners than it has in past years. And it does not mean that what you saw in the past was bad. It just means that we have kind of scaled this down to hit the major points, seeing that, you already have the budget in front of you, you've been able to review it. We're absolutely going to take questions at the end. I'm sure you have questions. But we wanted to scale this back a little bit. And as you know, this was a process. We started in August with the mid-year review. And at the mid-year review, we teed this up, started talking about the very things we're going to be speaking about today, November 11th. And so jumping right into this here, there's a couple of themes. We always like to have themes, certainly with our budgets. And so for 2022, certainly talking about taking care of what we have and taking care of who we have is the biggies. And again, you'll see that. We've already probably seen that in the budget. We desperately need to maintain people without being crazy with the taxpayer money, but to try to maintain the staff that we have and attract new staff. And so certainly, as you see the tagline at the end here, these go hand in hand, because we can't care for what we have. We don't care for the staff that's doing the work. Next. This is a graph that we've already talked about in all of our committee meetings, but it's worth pointing out again. I always look at budgets. I always look at value statements. What's the value that the taxpayer gets in this community? Because it's a big deal. It doesn't matter if it's Naperville, Aurora, the Gold Coast in Chicago. You want to see what the value is for what you're paying. And so again, we went back 10 years and we looked at 2011 through 2021. And over the 10 years, the average taxpayer, and we know Sue can explain this better than I can, that can fluctuate a couple bucks north or south. But for $78 over 10 years, the taxpayers saw $131 million in benefit. That's amazing. So this board and the previous board should be very proud of the fact that that is up on the screen, because that's your doing. At the end of the day, as President Biden says, the buck stops with him. Well, the buck stops with the board. The board directs me. I direct staff. But at the end of the day, again, taxpayers are going to come back to you and go, what are you doing? So, and when they come back to you and say, what are you doing? Save this slide, because I think it's very, very illustrative of what we as an organization have returned to the community. And again, we go into some of the different projects here, the $70 million in projects, property tax levy, the things that we've done to try to help out the best we can the residents of this community. As we move forward into 2022, again, $13.1 million in capital improvements, and a couple different examples here of Springbrook Golf Course renovations, which I know the golfers are greatly looking forward to that. And kudos to Kevin Carlson and his staff. And I'll throw a bone out to Ed Provo before he left. They have done an amazing job with the courses that they have. This is long overdue to do these improvements. So kudos to you, Kevin, and your staff for making the best of what you have out there. And they're wonderful courses. I can't only imagine what they're going to look like and feel like to the golfer once they're completed. And then certainly the continuous improvement of the napervilleparks.org site. Next. When we look at here, the caring for who we have, and we talk about fostering a healthy culture. In all the organizations I've been in, you can give people raises, you can give people time off, you can do all these perks. But if your culture sucks, then your organization sucks. Let me just put it plain and simple. And I've done this for a really, really long time. And I went to organizations who had a really crappy culture. They did a whole lot of great things for people, but at the end of the day, the people were like, I'm just here because I got to be here. I don't want to be here because the money's really good. That's not this park district. And so it's continuing to foster that healthy culture, providing excellent benefits, celebrating our successes, which you've seen. I put those out all the time when we win different awards. And it's not Ray McGurry that wins these awards. It's the men and women sitting out there, here, and the people that are on the line level that deserve the credit. I just kind of steer the ship. And then finally, promoting safety and stability. And safety is a big one for us, certainly, that we have ample opportunity to do some stupid things and we don't. That's because we got great supervision, we got a great risk manager, we got a great HR director that looks over these things and makes sure that we hold people's feet to the fire. If they mess up, they're disciplined. And it doesn't mean we're suspending or firing, but they're held accountable. So all that together, I think creates a very healthy culture that's transparent. People know what's expected of them. Next. I like this one because I like boxing gloves and Krav Maga and all that stuff. You all know about that good stuff here. And again, caring for who we have. And I'm not going to read each and every one of these, but it's just so important to us. The mission and the value again, the value that we return to our community. I have worked in the public sector for a long time. I don't want to mention how many years, but it's been a long time. And I've said it before, and I will say it again. This is by far the finest group of men and women I have ever worked with in the public sector in all my years. And I've worked with some great police officers. I've worked for some great bosses, but I have never seen a staff from the people out on the line, shoveling snow at 4 a.m. to make sure the Riverwalk's ready to go for the people that want to walk. When we get 8, 10, 12 inches of snow, I've never seen anything in my life when I come in, and that Riverwalk is pristine. Everything else, my truck can barely get in, but that Riverwalk is ready to go. And that's a testimony to the people that work here. Next.
So as we look ahead at our programs in the major facilities that we operate through the district, some of the challenges and some of the things that we will be focusing on as we move into 2022 with Centennial Beach. Staffing is a theme that you will hear about this evening and that we've talked about in the past. Staffing for Centennial Beach in a normal year can be a challenge. The lifeguards that we utilize for Centennial Beach have to have great skills. They have to be beyond what a typical lifeguard would be at what your normal pool setting would be. So recruitment of lifeguards is important. That has already started for the 2022 season. We actually begin this early, and we will be, for the next several months, really recruiting the lifeguards to be able to open. Our goal is to have 60 lifeguards next year at the start of the season that we can pull from to work into that schedule as we work 7 days a week. One of the other major goals that we will be working towards is with our food and beverage operations at Centennial Grill, reducing the lines that we have at Centennial Grill and utilizing an online ordering system through an app, through a Toast software app that we have to be able to allow people to actually purchase and then come up to the grill and get their items. With Fort Hill, you've heard about memberships, that we've had that decline in memberships since pre-pandemic. We are recovering. It is slow, but we are certainly in a better position than when we started 2021, at the start of 2021. We project that as we look ahead to next year, that we're going to continue growing our memberships back and bringing memberships back to this facility. And again, we are in a much better place right now than when we started the year in 2021. As we look at programs, focus on rebuilding our indoor programs specifically in areas like early childhood, in areas like our active adults and seniors, bringing them back into facilities as we continue to come out of this, rebuilding those programs indoors. At the same time, managing the growth that we've seen with our youth programs, specifically in the areas of sports, in our camps, and our aquatics. We saw numbers this past year, record numbers within even our youth basketball league, our aquatics programs that we had at Centennial Beach. With that comes the challenge of having the staff to be able to accommodate those who are interested in taking the program. So that continues to be a challenge for us and something that we will work towards into 2022 as we prepare for some of those outdoor seasons.
Shifting over to golf, we're expecting 2022 to be another busy year for golf. We're looking forward to participation levels similar to what we've seen in the previous couple of years, especially for our golf courses, our driving ranges, and our programs. But what's got people really excited, as Ray had mentioned, is the planned renovations at Springbrook Golf Course. Unfortunately, this is going to significantly impact our operations as we're going to have to close the golf course August 1st for the remainder of the season. This renovation is a large project. We have several features on the golf courses, on the Springbrook Golf Course that are going to be updated. And with the overall goal of obviously bringing a 50-year-old golf course up to modern times, but also to make the golf course more playable for all skill levels. The course will be closed through the remainder of the year, and then the grand opening after the renovations probably won't be until May of ’23. While we're closed for renovations at Springbrook Golf Course, we're going to be able to keep the practice area at Springbrook open. That will allow us to continue to offer programs at Springbrook Golf Course for the entire season. And the public will still be able to use the driving range for the entire year. We anticipate we'll see an increase in play over at Naperbrook. Naperbrook already is a very busy golf course. We're forecasting about 42,000 rounds this year. So there is going to be limits to what we can move over to Naperbrook. Staff is going to be working with our core golfers, our groups, our leagues, women's leagues, our permanent tee time holders, to make sure we can find ways to accommodate them over at Naperbrook once we close at Springbrook. And finally, we're looking forward to the opening in 2022 of the Naperbrook practice area. Renovations were completed this past fall on a new driving range tee and an updated practice green. And we expect the grand opening of that to be sometime mid to late May, depending on the weather.
Okay, well, here's a shocker. I'm here to talk about staffing challenges. Over the past few months, you've heard not only from me, but our other directors, especially recreation, golf, and parks, about the challenges in staffing and how it's impacting the service levels. There's a handful of things that we're going to do and continue to do, not that we haven't already started some of these throughout 2022, to try and alleviate the impact on the services that we provide. We're going to talk about evaluating benefit trends for all classification levels of our staff. You've already seen some of that in the two policies that are before you this evening for approval, the revisions that give additional time off to some of our part-time 30-plus individuals here at the district. We're also reviewing our salary ranges, and it's a bigger process than just looking at our full-time ranges. We definitely do want to be competitive on a full-time and part-time basis. But a large focus will be part of the 3-year financial planning that we're going to be working on and trying to address the compression issues that are going to continue to escalate as minimum wage escalates as well. We have implemented and will continue to implement a new online software platform for the employment applications. We're getting some interesting metrics, and we are getting greater visibility of our job postings with a couple positions that we have piloted. Say it for me. Piloted. Yeah, I don't know why I can't say that word this evening. Where we can see where individuals are seeing our advertisements, and we see how many looks that our openings are receiving as well. And then throughout 2022, Sam and I are going to continue to be joined at the hip. We've been working very diligently together and have plans for 22 to specifically try and get our positions in front of people. Some of the things that we're talking about are pop-up job fairs. We're going to be looking at the school schedule, so the days that the students get out early or have off of school, if the weather's good. We're going to set up shop over at the Free Speech Pavilion and market to the individuals on the Riverwalk there. We are also looking at clings that will go in our doors and windows throughout our facilities that will have a QR code on it. And individuals can scan that QR code and go right to our job opportunities. When the weather breaks, one of the things we're going to implement are ground decals as well at some of our outdoor facilities that receive a lot of foot traffic, so that they can scan the QR code there and see what is available. We are also, and I mentioned this previously, but we're back on track for the community job fair, and that is going to be held on January 8th of this year. We're working closely with Kids Matter to get that into the different schools, and then also other areas that we might be able to market to. One of the themes you'll see as you start to see our job ads is we have a tagline, a theme, which is work here, play here. So our advertisements will all have that in there, and we're going to try and keep getting that in front of individuals and get everything staffed up. Thank you.
Okay, now we get into a high-level overview of the numbers. So our 2022 budget is $44.5 million. Looking at it from three areas, our operating budget is 28 million, our capital is 13.1, as we've talked about, and then we have debt service, we're retiring an annual amount of principal and interest of $3.4 million. So I will say, when we talk about budgeting in public finance, the question comes up, are you presenting a balanced budget? And the district is having a balanced budget, as we have had for many years, for our main three funds. And that's the general fund, the rec fund, and our golf fund. Our capital fund, which you'll see when you look through the budget book, you would see a drawdown shown in parentheses of about $5.8 million. That is a planned drawdown. Always like to highlight that when you see negative and red in a budget, it's perceived in a lot of ways as not being good. That is not the case for us. We have a 10-year capital plan that you're all aware of. We even break that down further to a 3-year plan, and we manage our cash flows and ins and outs in order to fund that 10-year plan over time, which for us is about $75 million. So in some years, we spend less in capital. In some years, we'll spend more. In some years, we issue debt. And when we issue that debt, there's an influx of cash. And then when we do projects, it flows out. So that 13 million is typically, I'd say maybe a little higher than last year, but we're averaging 17. We looked back, we're averaging around 17 million in a year in capital over time. That is significant. It just shows the assets that we maintain at our district. We're over $300 million. That we're having to, at least that's the physical things that we have recorded. So when you look at that, you think, well, how are we paying for all this? Our two main revenue sources that we've talked about, our first one is property tax. That is our number one funding source for everything we do, both operating capital and to pay debt service. Secondly is charges for services, and that encompasses a lot. So that's program fees for the programs Brad mentioned. It's all of our golf fees that Kevin talks about generating, it's user fees, it's memberships at Fort Hill. That is our second largest source. We have a few other smaller ones of sales and rentals, but really those two are our primary amounts. And so we take both of those revenue sources, as you know, very seriously when we are talking about our property tax levy and the stewardship of those dollars. And also when we're annually evaluating what we are going to charge for programs and memberships to be able to afford to put those programs on, but also be affordable and within the market and the best we can do for our community and participants. Okay, so for 2022, we are proposing in our tax levy to fund all those operations, and an average taxpayer would pay about $385. Again, let me just say these are averages based on estimates, and as Ray had said earlier, it can fluctuate up or down a little bit. The average for last year was about $372 that we calculated, so we're anticipating a $13 increase on average for an average homeowner at a value of a home of about $412,000. So included in, and it tied nicely with the presentation that you heard tonight from WESDRA of special recreation, just wanted to highlight our process when we're looking at the tax levy and what we need and what we're funding is for special recreation needs. So we pay a membership to be in WESDRA and providing all of those inclusion services that you're going to read about in their annual report. And there's also, and that's 2 cents. So that's the 2 of the 2.9. The 0.9 is for capital ADA improvements. And that is what we are restricted to for that. How do we determine that 0.9? We can levy a total up to 4 cents every year for this levy. But the philosophy has been here, like everything we do, that we only levy what we need. So based on our 3-year plan for special recreation capital that we have, so let me back up a little bit. Eric and his team started by developing an ADA transition plan. And that plan starts, here's what you need to do over time to transition assets that you have. And then also we look at new assets that we're bringing on, what can we invest there? So based on that plan, we develop our capital plan, and the ADA improvements flow through that plan. So when we're looking at 2022, we know what our needs are going to be, and that's what we're asking for through the tax levy. There are some years when our needs and that plan is greater, and we have levied up to the 4 cents. But this year, we know we aren't going to need that. We levy what we need, and that's why you'll see a 2.9 cent estimate of what we're levying for that. And that will accommodate all the capital that we have planned to do for ADA-related improvements in 2022. Okay, next slide.
Okay, so now going to 2022. Certainly the community interest and opinion survey, you've heard a lot of discussion about this. This is the roadmap for the future, plain and simple. This is where you as a board, after hearing from the community, charge me with saying, okay, we're going to do A, B, and C based on the feedback that you get. This is vitally important. Great timing. Post, I underscore or highlight post-COVID, kind of hope that it's post-COVID in 2022. But that's going to be very exciting for the district. The new 3-year strategic plan, that then takes that data that we're all going to receive and kind of holds our feet as an organization and you as a board collectively together to the fire to say, these are the things that we think are important. And we put benchmarks and we put different deadlines in there to say, by this date and time, we want to have this done. Is it 100% all the time? No, there are some times we have to move things back. You've seen that happen here already. But we, again, are hopeful that COVID is beyond us and we can plow into that. Certainly the master plan update. You've already heard Katie eloquently talk about recruitment and retention strategies. New website. This is a big deal. We have a wonderful website now, but Samara and her team, certainly working with an outside vendor, are going to bring something new, brighter, quicker, faster, all the things that I have no idea what they do, but they do it really well. So that when people go there, they get what they want and they get that quickly. And then finally, the Riverwalk Cafe operational assessment. This is very important. When we revamped the Riverwalk Cafe, 2016, Brad? 2016. We were seeing that first summer, $4,000, $5,000, and $6,000 days at the cafe. It's crazy. It was crazy. Crazy good. As Water Street came online, and as that started to develop, we started seeing those numbers go down. This year, and again, we're still in the COVID year, so we kind of put an asterisk next to that. We're not seeing nearly the foot traffic and the Rotary Hill area of the Riverwalk that we have seen in past years. Now, that could be, I don't know why it would be, people would want to be outside. We're just not seeing the foot traffic that we normally see. So we are going to take a hard look at the cafe in 2022 and then come to you with some recommendations. And one of those recommendations may be, we just had a bang up year. Let's just stay the course. We're doing well again. Or we think that we can scale this back and maybe we're just doing ice cream cones and basic stuff. Maybe we're not doing any food anymore. But we'll come back to you in 2022. And it won't be at this time next year in 2022, but again, periodically throughout the year, we'll do updates, certainly in the summer, and give you an idea of, how that's looking. Next. Again, the capital projects, 4 locations here with the playground renovations, 2 locations we have playground development, basketball court renovations, sprinkler golf course renovations. Certainly those are all biggies in 2022. And then finally, We'll again pursue our rebuilding of the specific areas. So Fort Hill, Brad talked about that, and our indoor programs. And the main thing is that I think that I hope that the taxpayers, and we're not going to please everybody. I get that. I understand that. I've been doing this, like I said, a long time. I understand it's not 100%. There are still going to be people that are critical of us. We will always listen to them. But at the end of the day, we maintain a fantastic financial position. And that's part and parcel to Sue Stanish, Jeremy, and certainly you as a board, not only the current board, but previous boards, to hold our feet to the fire as a staff, and to make sure that we return the best product that we can for the community, while being fiscally responsible in doing so. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Are there any questions or comments? Leslie, do you have any questions or comments?
I do not. Thank you for asking me.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, sure. All right, I'll be the bad guy.
Josh?
So, I've been asking questions about tax levy freeze, and everyone saw Sue's very good answer and some of the back and forth we've had. And, when we, our commissioners asked for an abatement or tax levy freeze or to keep the tax levy rate the same as the previous year, I don't want it to ever come across as an indictment of what the staff is doing. I echo everything that Executive Director Ray has mentioned about the staff. And admittedly, being someone who's somewhat cynical of governments, I've been always pleasantly happy with the operations at the Park District. I think Sue does a phenomenal job. And so my request and my ask for some form of abatement or a tax freeze for the taxpayer is really comes from a position of, my belief that our staff is so effective and competent that I think when you get smart people together, and I think we could be surprised at what people could find in the forms of savings and efficiency and providing the value that we're providing, and doing more with less. And I think no matter how good an operation is run, there's got to be areas for looking to do more with less. So, when I'll put I read an article earlier this week, Mitch Daniels, I'll do a little plug for my alma mater. He's president of Purdue University. Purdue University is on their 10th year of a tuition freeze. And somehow they still have waiting lists to get in the university. And we just recently beat the number 2 team in the country in football, Iowa, and Michigan State, number 3. So, and his quote was, you get smart people together, you'd be surprised at what you can come up with. So I think the budget looks great. I'm happy with what staff's doing. I'm still interested in one of those avenues before I would vote for the budget and the levy. I know that staff, if they're looking to do something in the form of financially for taxpayers, I think they'd always prefer an abatement. So, I know we have a bond refund coming. Maybe that's an area that could be an abatement for the taxpayers. But just letting you know, that's my position. It's not an indictment of anything that staff's doing, but I am looking for something in the form of either a tax freeze. Maybe it's not 3 years, or an abatement. Or like what we did last year and leave the levy or the rate flat. Those are my comments.
Any other comments? Rich?
Yes, so obviously we reviewed some of your responses to we were knocking around the tax freeze. I don't know if we ever got to what would an abatement look like for the district? What if the board were to say, we got to do some type of abatement to have the back of the taxpayer? What would that look like? I mean, what would at a high level, what would the implications be? What would the key implications of that be?
Well, so it really depends what we're talking about, but if we did an abatement similar to the process that we did last year, where it's not compounding and going forward, we're looking at potentially, if it's the same process, at $1 million less. And when we look in the past, when we've had the state could freeze our taxes, what are we gonna do? We immediately, and same with COVID, went back to staff and said, okay, we need to cut, what are we gonna do? We're at a point now where, from my perspective and what I've seen for departments, that we can't do that with what we have, inflation, what the costs of everything, all the personnel costs are gonna be. So the alternative is to go into our reserves to make up for that loss so we can balance the budget for this year. Looking at 3 years from the estimates, that's a $5.3 million. So taking a step back, and the place where if we had to do this, if we did do this, it would come out of capital, because that's really the only place where we would have enough money to fund this. So for a lot of years, we were building up that, it's a board direction of how you would want to fund things going forward in the future. But since 2007, we are working that any extra money we had, before my time, Marie would know, we were funneling into capital. And we were building up balances there to not only fund a $75-80 million plan, but it also allowed for flexibility. And this is really key, because when you look at Nike Park was not on the plan for a long time. That was land is available now. Can we get it? And within, I'd say, a couple months, we were able, because we had money, we were allowing for flexibility. We were able to take advantage of that. And things like that, maybe not on that large of a scale, but happen every year. So when you're asking the implications of drawing down our capital, number one, as you know about the Moody's, we need to be really careful there. And I can't give you a number. I can't even give you a magnitude of what that would mean. But I can tell you that as a philosophy, when you're using reserve funds, kind of one-time money that you're funneling in for specific projects, and you pull a lot out to fund your daily operations, it's not looked upon as a best practice. It's different if you're in an emergency situation, like a COVID, where we said we're going into capital. Everyone was doing that. So the implications are we would be changing our capital plan, and it would be a domino effect a little bit moving forward, depending on the magnitude of what we would be drawing down.
So if you forget about the 3 years and you just talk 1 year, the abatement would be, we'd basically be down $1 million. Is that right?
That would be on estimates if we did it that way, depending if the process of how you would freeze, it would be $1 million.
So if you're down about $1 million and then you pull $1 million from reserves to fill in the gap, the Moody's, okay, we may jeopardize that.
Well, that's definitely something you want to talk about as a board.
Sure.
That has been a philosophy and a goal since 2007 to keep that. So I can't tell you if yes or no of whether that would be an impact, but it definitely would impact our plan going forward. Even $1 million is a lot. We're taking out money now from capital just because when we issue debt, we knew we went over our skis a little bit. So we're already using a little bit of capital to offset that. So, we're saving on those interest costs, which flows back to the taxpayer. That's coming from capital for 1 more year. Next year, we'll have that all done.
Hey, Sue,
Yes.
one thing, if I can ask you both, and I think this is important, this goes back to my value statement.
Yeah.
What would the average taxpayer save if we slashed $1 million?
So $13.
I would venture to say there's going to be a lot of people in this community not happy over saving $13. I understand the look of that. I understand you always want to save the taxpayer money, but we live in a high expectation community. And to slash $1 million out of a budget, that just doesn't come out of anywhere. That's going to come out, like I said, capital, out of operations. My 2 cents, penny wise and dollar foolish.
I would also add that in previous surveys, I think we've clearly gotten input from the community that says, take care of what we own. And if you start taking money away from your capital, you're going to impact what it is that we're taking care of. Something's not going to get done. And we've seen it at the golf courses that they've delayed the amount of work that they needed to do, and there's significant work that needs to be done at some of the golf courses at this point. But, you know, we can't start doing that across the board, I don't think.
As far as the figure you gave was the 385 is what the average person in Naperville, their taxes would go up. Let's say somebody is lower income, obviously that range is going to be quite different
Yes,
comparatively.
Let me just clarify, 385 is the total.
Yes, it'll
Sorry,
only go
when you said
13.
going
No,
up,
no,
I
no,
wanna
no, it
make
will go
sure.
up to 385. Sorry, I misspoke. No, going up to 385. I would imagine there's probably anything from $1 all the way up to $20 for the year. You know what I mean? Like there has to be some sort of range there. Could you expand upon that a little bit?
So when we calculate the average, so an average homeowner, and actually, we project every year, and the census came out, so the average, for the census, latest census, the average home value, market value is about $412,000. So that's how we calculate our average. If your home value is less than that, your increase is going to be less and you're going to pay less. It really depends on each homeowner's assessed valuation, and that's determined by the township. So if in your neighborhood, you know, we know that the value, you know, values are increasing, but example, you refinish your basement, that's going to, and you get reassessed, that's going to change your value. So what we're talking about here is a broad average. So when we say there's a $13 increase, for some people it could be 10, for some it could be 5, for some it could be 15. It all just depends.
Following up with that, just something that really resonated with me and reading the budget and then, you know, your excellently put together packet, and then listening to Director McGurry talk about it, is investing in the people. And, you know, I've seen your staff, they're exhausted, they're tired, we've all been hit very hard, and I've definitely seen that with you guys. My concern with freezing this is we are gonna burn out the people who are keeping us afloat. If we're not taking care of who we have right now, let's even forget about getting more people. Like, let's just take care of these people right now. And what is that gonna do to the taxpayer who says, okay, well, thank you very much for saving me my $13 right now, but now Fort Hill closes an hour earlier, they can't get off work to come work out. That would be my concern, is that what are we sacrificing to save just a little bit of money right now? And what are we doing to our staff by sacrificing that?
Yeah, and just to follow up, and those are all legitimate concerns, Commissioner Thompson, and I hear what you're saying, Executive Director McGurry. I would just say that you know, we can talk about $2 and $6 and $13 forever, and it's always another $10, and it's another $13, and those nickels and dimes add up over time. And my point is, I'm confident in the staff. There's other park districts in the Chicagoland area that have AAA rated bond ratings that do not have the reserve levels that we have. I'm not talking about closing down facilities or, you know, neglecting our duty to provide the value that we have. It's just my opinion. We're the cream of the crop. We're a leader. And one way to be a leader is to show other park districts we can provide this excellent level of service with less. And I believe our staff is equipped to do that. So if maybe that doesn't mean a 3-year tax levy freeze, which would equal maybe a $5 million dollar amount that we wouldn't have access to in the future. Maybe that would be an abatement, but you know, if I don't have support for it, that's why we have 7 people on the board, and we all get our own vote. So, but you know, I would encourage commissioners to think about that it can be done, I believe.
Okay, any other comments? All right.
I want to hear, a freeze would affect the capital or funds strongest, right? And we've got our
community interest and opinion survey coming up. It feels like maybe now's not the right time to be jeopardizing our capital funds when we're about to hear from our constituents, what they want to see us doing in the future.
Okay. If there are no other comments, let's move on to the resolution to establish an estimate of funds to be raised by taxation for the 2021 levy.
Move to approve Resolution 2110, establishing an estimate of funds to be raised by taxation for the 2021 tax levy year.
I need a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Vice President Gibson,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ansier,
Yes.
Commissioner Janner,
Yes.
Commissioner McBroom,
No.
Commissioner Ruffing,
Yes.
President Todd.
Yes. Okay, treasurer's report.
Move to approve the September 2021 Treasurers Report, which includes the Board 2021 NRPA Conference travel expenses in the amount of $467.
I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, roll call.
Vice President Gibson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ansier,
Yes.
Commissioner Janner,
Yes.
Commissioner McBroom,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruffing,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
President Todd.
Yes. All right, let's move to the updates and reports. The Riverwalk Commission.
Yes. The Riverwalk Commission met yesterday, November 10th. We received an update on the repairs for Moser Tower, which are expected to be completed early next spring, with the scaffolding coming down this December. Park District staff reported that unfortunately, they spent the better part of the past month cleaning up graffiti from incidents along the Riverwalk. However, in happier news, new banners were hung along the Riverwalk that show artistic versions of scenes from the Riverwalk. The banners will be changed out seasonally to show different seasonal aesthetics of the Riverwalk. And finally, this past week, Park District staff planted 5,000 tulip bulbs along the Riverwalk over the course of 2 days, which I know is something that all Naperville residents are looking forward to enjoying this coming spring.
Thanks. Anything from the Finance Committee?
Finance Committee, we canceled our meeting for November. We didn't have any pressing items. Obviously, we had our budget presentation tonight, but we will resume Finance Committee meeting on December 17th at 9:30 at the main Park District location.
Okay, thank you. Legislative Committee.
Thank you, President Todd. The Legislative Committee is meeting tomorrow, Friday at 4:30 PM. And looking forward to that. Thank you.
All right. Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec didn't meet this month. We didn't have any pressing matters. The next date should be at 5:30, before the next board meeting, but it's not yet, it's to be determined at this time.
Okay. That's I have nothing. Executive Director.
Thank you, President Todd. Several things to talk about here. Parents, enjoy a night out while your kids enjoy their own fun-filled evening at the November Kids Night Out event at Fort Hill Activity Center on Friday, November 19th. Participants will go on a turkey hunt, play pin the waddle on the turkey. I think I played it on New Year's Eve one year and it did not go well for myself. And get moving with Fort Hill's own version of the turkey trot. The event is for kids ages 4 through 12. Visit napervilleparks.org/Kids Night Out for more details. The holidays are on the way and Santa will be returning to his Naperville workshop to visit with families and kids of all ages from November 29th through December 23rd. This is important to hear. Registration is required for this event, so there's no walk-ups to be accepted for Santa. Resident registration begins Tuesday, November 16th at noon. Non-resident registration begins on Thursday, November 18th at noon. Go to www.napervilleparks.org/Santa Workshop for more details. And Santa's Workshop will be held at the Riverwalk Cafe, located at 441 Aurora Avenue along the Riverwalk itself. Looking ahead for some winter break fun for your 3 to 17-year-old? Check out our wide variety of winter break camps available through the Naperville Park District. Choose from active camps like gymnastics, basketball, cheerleading, flag football, and more, as well as creative hands-on camps featuring dinosaur themes and Lego. Registration is currently in progress. Visit www.napervilleparks.org/winterbreakscamp for more information on that. Also mark your calendar for the release of the digital-only Winter 2022 Program Guide on Wednesday, December 1st. It will be available at napervilleparks.org/program guides. Resident registration begins Monday, December 6th at 8:30 a.m. Non-residents begin on Thursday, December 9th at 8:30 a.m. Please note that the spring soccer registration will open on December 14th. Probably sick of hearing this. Already a fan of the Naperville Park District, you can work here and play here. With a variety of open positions available across the organization, now is a great time to join the Naperville Park District. To view the current available jobs, apply at napervilleparks.org/employment. And then finally, I had notified, certainly the commissioners and the staff knows about this. We lost a great friend. I lost a great friend this week, Mike Pruder. Back in the late 90s, I ran for the very seat that you're all sitting in. And I was unsuccessful in getting on the park board, but the first person that contacted me when I started my campaign was Mike Pruder. Mike was an avid baseball player, played in the minor leagues for a little while, and was big with the Naperville Baseball Association. And back then, he had some conflict, I should say, not he, but the Naperville Baseball Association had some conflicts with the Park District. And he was looking for a voice, for somebody to listen to the issues that they were having with the Park District. And so he was an immense help to me in the campaign, became a great close friend. Fast forward to, for about the past year and a half, 2 years, Mike worked here at the Fort Hill Activity Center. And people came to me, and I said several people talked about Mike and his demeanor. And there were teenagers that would show up here for open gym with no money. They thought they could just come in and play and not have to pay, to get in. Mike would pay for these kids. And again, this wasn't coming from Mike. This was coming from people saying, I don't know, your culture is unbelievable here because this Pruder guy, about Mike Bragg. Well, yeah, he's a good friend of mine. So that's the kind of a person that Mike was. I will sorely miss him as a friend. I know the community misses him. He was an active member at many levels. And the other thing about Mike was he was a stand-up comedian, legitimately. Did performances throughout the community, did it for charity. His last one was at the VFW. And so we've lost a great comedian and a great friend. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
I have one question. You talked about the Santa workshop's going to be at the cafe. Does that mean we're not going to do any Santa house on the Riverwalk?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Take a quick.
Start meeting. Share better. Please enter your access. Welcome to the Naperville Park District Conferencing Center. Please enter your PIN followed by the pound. Thank you. There is one other participant in the conference. Please announce yourself.
Are you in, Leslie?
I'm here now. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay. Now we'll move to the consent agenda. Bridget, would you read the consent agenda?
Item 7.1, approve October 2021 disbursements in the amount of $1,670,862.95. 7.2, approve October 2021 disbursements made through the Bank of America purchasing card program in the amount of $353,903.40. 7.3, approve October 2021 FinTech disbursements in the amount of $2,141.25. 7.4, approve October 2021 customer refunds in the amount of $1,367.45. 7.5, approve October 28, 2021 regular meeting minutes. 7.6, Approve change order number 1 to the independent contractor agreement with Acuity Research and Insights, Inc. for the performance of a community interest and opinion survey and market analysis. 7.7, approve ordinance 1009, authorizing addendum number 5 to that commercial lease for 2244 West 95th Street, Naperville, Illinois, approved by ordinance 789. 7.8, approve the 2022 independent contractor agreement for youth sports instruction with All Star Sports Instruction, Inc. 7.9, approve the 2022 independent contractor agreement for karate instruction with Illinois Shotokan Karate Clubs. 7.10, approve revisions to the Naperville Park District personnel policies and the addition of policy 05-15 wellness policy. 7.11, approve resolution 21-09, notice of 2022 regular board meeting schedule. 7.12, approve ordinance 1010, amending Naperville Park District Board policies and bylaws. 7.13, approve the purchase of 15 2022 Yamaha Drive-To golf cars from Harris Golf Cars for an amount not to exceed $76,905. 7.14, approve ordinance 1006, declaration of surplus property. And 7.15, approve the award for contract mowing services in 2022 to Aronia Landscape, Inc. for an amount not to exceed $93,472.71.
Okay, are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
I'd like to pull out 7.10, please.
All right, 7.10. Any other discussion? All right, move to accept.
Move to accept consent agenda items 7.1 through 7.9 and 7.11 through 7.15.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please, or discussion? No, roll call.
Vice President Gibson,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ansier,
Yes.
Commissioner Janner,
Yes.
Commissioner McBroom,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruffing,
Yes.
President Todd.
Yes. Okay, move to approve.
Move to approve consent agenda items 7.1 through 7.9 and 7.11 through 7.15.
A second, please.
Second.
All right. And this is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, and unfinished business, we'll start with 7.10. The personnel policies, Leslie?
Yes. So last week I spoke with Director Seppi regarding the proposed bereavement policy update, which is part of this agenda item. I asked her about the possibility of updating it further than what was being proposed to reflect full-time and full-time equivalent employees to be given a week off of work to tend to end-of-life tasks with then the opportunity to use sick time for an additional week off for bereavement. I felt like this was a real opportunity for us to provide perhaps some more compassionate benefits to employees when they would be, when they would need it the most. I just kept thinking about it after our last meeting, and I'd hate for someone dealing with a sudden loss to have to be worried about, having enough sick days accrued to cover the time off that they needed. And just as was pointed out during the budget presentation, I agree that it's really important to be caring for who we have. So this is obviously a policy that only a small percentage of employees will, thankfully ever have to utilize. And I know that Director Seppi has noted that this further update will not be burdensome from an administration standpoint. Director Seppi and Executive Director McGurry are supportive of this change as well. So I don't know if there's any questions or.
Any other comments on that? Okay, so I think we can move to approve.
Do we have to motion?
What do we need to do?
Do you need us to table it, Katie, and bring it back, or can we approve with the amendment?
We can approve with the amendment.
Okay.
Say that part.
Yes, move to approve as amended.
Move to approve item 7.1 as amended. Move to approve item 7.10 as amended.
Need a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
Any other discussion on that? No? Roll call.
Vice President Gibson,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ansier,
Yes.
Commissioner Janner,
Yes.
Commissioner McBroom,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruffing,
Yes.
President Todd.
Yes. All right. We have no new business. Our next scheduled meeting of the Board of Commissioners is December 9th here at Fort Hill. We will be moving into executive session. One of the things that we have is the annual review of the minutes of the executive session minutes. We can either go in and review them, or we can just
Concur in the
concur
staff's
to release them.
in staff's recommendation. We recommended releasing
Yes.
some.
Staff's recommendation is that we can release them. So if there's any objection to that, we can go into executive session. Otherwise, we can just move to release.
Concur in the recommendation of staff to release the minutes so designated and otherwise to find the others should remain confidential.
What he said.
So moved.
You don't, but you do need a second.
Rich, second.
Second.
Okay, so with no discussion, roll call.
Vice President Gibson,
Yes.
Commissioner Janner,
Yes.
Commissioner Ansier,
Yes.
Commissioner McBroom,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruffing,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
President Todd.
Yes. All right, now we'll move to executive
All
session.
right, move to adjourn to executive session to discuss personnel per section 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act.
Need a second?
Second?
All in favor?
It's a roll call.
A roll call, all right. I'll get it right one of these days.
Vice President Gibson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ansier,
Yes.
Commissioner Janner,
Yes.
Commissioner McBroom,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruffing,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
President Todd.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to stay here. All staff is excused.